Hello everyone, welcome back to MLS Moves. Please make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Before we get to the video, I'd like to thank you all for your support and remind you that we're doing a jersey giveaway when we hit 3,000 subscribers. 3,000 subscribers is our goal to reach by the end of this month, so make sure you subscribe, stay subscribed, follow me on Twitter at MLS Moves for the latest updates on the giveaway. Now, on to the video. One of the biggest questions surrounding Major League Soccer is what can the league become one day and what will it take to get there? Many people have different opinions on what MLS can do to reach its main goal of being a top league in the world, but is it spending? Is it better youth development? Or is it something else we aren't discussing? I brought my friend Tactical Manager back to discuss what MLS must do in order to be a better league in his opinion. Comment down below and let us know what you think MLS must do to reach its full potential as a league. And when do you think it's possible for the league to reach this potential? Okay, Tack, welcome back, man. We're going to talk a little bit about MLS in general now. We're going to talk about, where you think the league is, where it could grow to, maybe some of the things that you are, really want to change with the league. And just get your perspective on it because, people always call you an MLS hater, which I don't think you are at all. I just think that you're honest. If they're calling you an MLS hater and if they're also calling you a Euro snob or well, you get that reverse, you just seem like you're in the middle. You're just calling balls and strikes, right? You're just being fair. You don't
I
want
mean, I
MLS to fail.
I would I would say I'm probably an MLS fan.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
I'm not a shill, but definitely a fan. I
Yeah.
mean, I've been around multiple MLS games in different states, different cities, bought different jerseys for different reasons, have done videos for free to promote the league, vlogging to try to get people to go more to the stadium. Not that they need help with attendance. MLS's attendance is actually pretty good, but I mean, if I can help get 10 people into a stadium, I'll do it. Whatever I can do. Um, and I've done different types of coverage with MLS, so I would not put myself in that Euro
Well, let me ask.
snob.
Let me ask you this question then, just to get your perspective on this. Why do you think people do call you an MLS hater?
I think that so I, I think there's a portion of the MLS fan base that any type of criticism, they get overly sensitive about it. They're very defensive about the league and they're very insecure about it. It's very weird.
Mm.
It's almost like if you go to a random league and say that's garbage defending, people usually will not care because it's more directed towards the club. Like let's say Liverpool has shit defending. Are you, as a Premier League fan, gonna get angry about that? It's like, no, they're gonna poop on Liverpool. But here it seems like to be something more about the league. Like if it's very weird. Not every fan base. You do see some legitimate rivalries. Like I've talked to Seattle and Portland fans, and they legitimately don't like each other. Not the people, but the teams and the fan base. And but for example, let me try to give an example from my own experience. Seattle Sounders go to the Club World Cup. For the most part, MLS, like fans of different teams, they want the Sounders to do good. Besides maybe the Portland fans, but outside of that, I'd say most fans wanted Seattle to do well. And then Palmeiras, my team, or Fluminense goes to the Club World Cup, a Brazilian team. Everyone in the country wants that team to go to hell, lose, lose
Yeah.
miserably. They don't want them to win. Oh, but everyone in the world's going to think the Brazilian league sucks. They don't care. They want them to lose. So it's a different type of culture, and they get very defensive when you put any type of criticism towards the league. They'll say you hate the league and all of that, and I think that's why they call it. Um, I think I don't think I say anything too crazy. It's like the best leagues in the world are in Europe. There's a lot of leagues in Europe that are better than MLS, and I want the national team players to go play in the best leagues in the world, go challenge themselves, and that'll make them better players. And I don't like the fact when the national team coach, I think that's probably why they call me an MLS hater, is when the national team coach calls a player that's performing well in MLS while another player is struggling, let's say Bundesliga, Serie A, Premier League, whatever, and then this idea that the player in MLS that's playing well is better than that player is nonsense. Could he be better? Sure. He could be better. You could be an MLS player and be better than a Premier League player. That could happen. Um, because you're maybe too good in MLS, or maybe that guy is not Premier League level. But generally, if we're going to generalize it, most players in the top 5 leagues in Europe, I would even argue, well, when you go to top 6, it gets tricky because you can get some teams in the Netherlands that are horrendous and way worse than MLS team. But generally, in the top 5 leagues, most of the players are better than MLS players. Besides like DPs and all that, you get better competition. And then we talked about like promotion relegation. It's more intense, the culture, the pressure, all of that. That's it. And I think that's why a small portion, because a lot of my viewers, most of my viewers watch MLS. So clearly they don't agree with that. But there's that small portion of MLS fans that are a bit whiny and a little bit annoying that anything you criticize the league, they freaking go bananas. They go
They're
crazy.
sensitive. Yeah,
Yes,
they're
they're
just
very overly sensitive, and it's annoying. And you see that also with even some MLS journalists too. It's not just fans. I don't think there's many of them though. I think there's a good portion of MLS fans that want the league to be better, and the league will get better with first with the league taking action, and two with people being critical and demanding more. That's not putting the league down, demanding more. Um, it's crazy because I've seen people even call you sometimes MLS hater. I've seen people call MLS Buzz an MLS hater. The guy has a whole account dedicated to MLS, but apparently he's a hater because he demands more at times. I think that's why. Now, whatever I say here, a lot of these people are still going to think I'm an MLS hater. I don't care. And it's kind of bizarre to me because I've had Austin give me access. So apparently, an MLS team is okay with me being there, the hater. I had Charlotte FC invite me. I did the vlog for them. Um, San Diego FC reached out to me the other day. They're going to send me a scarf. And that's even the team that I've made fun of their logo. And I stand by it. I don't like their logo. But of
it's
course,
terrible.
I'll take the scarf. I don't like the logo, but look at that. So it's more of like a portion of the fan base that's very whiny and some journalists. But it's just crazy to me when they say that. I literally worked for Orlando City in the past. Their first youth soccer school here, the first soccer school they opened, I was the head coach. And I worked with like former Brazilian national team players there. I was the head coach of the first soccer school. I literally worked for it. Um,
Well, why do you think that is at a club that's literally 3,000 miles away from you, sending you a scarf? But it seems like a club that's in your backyard could give a damn. They could care less to have you involved with them in any form or fashion. Like
I
they're
don't
like,
know.
you know,
I don't
eh.
know. I don't know. There's a lot of people I like there. The people, for example, from the soccer school I worked with, they're awesome. Upper management, all of that. Do they have issues with me? I don't know. Is it maybe incompetence? I don't know. I'd gladly make multiple vlogs for Orlando City. I'll still be critical of the team, which, by the way, this season there's a lot to be critical of. But I would gladly make vlogs and motivate people to go to games. I still think upper management does a terrible job. And I said this while everyone was hyping Orlando City this offseason. I was saying, we'll make the playoffs, and I still think we will make the playoffs. This is not that good of a team. Upper management is not competent. Oscar Pareja is a fine coach to build a team. He can't get it done after that. There has to be change. People were still hyping it, and you see how Orlando is doing. Will they make the playoffs? Probably. I think they'll sort it out at some point. They have the quality to do so, but this team's not accomplishing much outside of that. Um, I don't know, man. I can't respond to you of why they would be like that. I'm still friends with all the people that work in the soccer school. I left the job. I wasn't fired, and I also did not leave because I hated them. I left because I had my third knee surgery, and I have my company, and I already coach kids a certain portion of the day, and there's only so many hours I can stand without my knees swelling up or hurting. So I just had to make a choice.
Yeah. No,
And it wasn't anything that was like them having it. They never had an issue with me in that sense, and it was never me also. So just to make that clear, it wasn't them or me.
well, one thing I want to ask you too is because you've been in Orlando for like 10 plus years now, right? Something close to that.
Eight. I
Eight
was in
years.
New York before. Yeah, I used to go to the Red Bulls game too before.
But so you were maybe Kaká had just left when you. I think he was there at least a couple of years when you moved to
No,
Orlando,
he
right?
when so I hadn't moved here yet because my parents were already living here, so I came here during the summer. But I was here in Kaká's first season. It was 2016, right, or 15? I
I think it
think
was
2015.
2015. Yeah,
15. So I
20.
was here in the summer. Me and my dad, we went to games with Kaká at which was the Citrus Bowl Stadium, which is now the Camping World, the bigger stadium here. It wasn't Exploria. Well, not even Exploria. The name is now Interco, whatever. But
Yeah.
I did go to Kaká's games here. Yeah.
So obviously, you've told me this. A lot of people told me there's a huge Brazilian population in Orlando. They signed one of the biggest Brazilian stars of all time, and Kaká. That's a good start, right? You think, well, that's going to hopefully build a bridge between some of these fans in the city, maybe build some fandom, loyalty to the club. Kind of suck them in. But it doesn't actually feel like that. It feels like, honestly, when I look back on the Kaká signing, it was like a flash in the pan. Like it was okay at first, but I mean, it's kind of forgetful, isn't it? Because he was hurt a lot. He really didn't do much. They didn't win anything.
They didn't even
So
make the playoffs with him.
they didn't even make the playoffs with him. So it's, I mean, does anyone in Orlando really care about Orlando City? Does it feel like a forgotten club?
It's an interesting question because obviously some people do. Like the attendance is fine, but I think those are pretty much the people that do.
Yeah.
I even tweeted this out once, which is true. In my soccer program, I have like 300 kids registered, all live in Orlando, and these are kids playing soccer. Obviously, it's rec, and they're very young. They're elementary school age, so they're getting introduced to sport. And I try to promote Orlando City to them because that's the team that's here. So I'm like, hey, who's gonna go to the game and all that. And I always ask them during the season. And every season, I try to ask as many kids as I can. Obviously, I can't get the answer from every single one of them, but I'll get from most of them. And usually, when I ask that out of the 300, you'll get like 10 to 15 that know what Orlando City even is.
Mhm.
Sure, there's the age group, but again, it's like they're not being introduced. I don't think the community outreach is that good. Um, I don't think they do the best job in really getting the community to back them. And you talked about Kaká. I thought that was um, in theory a great idea, but it didn't seem like it was executed the best way possible. Keep in mind, Orlando is not really a good sports city. We'll talk about like the Magic, for example. So it's not that great. But no, I do think that Orlando City could have done a much better job with all of that. And I can't speak on behalf of every team. But again, like I said before, this is not bashing the Orlando City fans specifically, but I've been to multiple different MLS stadiums with different fan bases, and the atmosphere here, I never really thought it was that great. It's like um, didn't seem like people care too much. The wall does, the supporter section, but everyone else just kind of there. I know this is very similar to many other MLS stadiums, but for example, Austin, I thought it was awesome. It's a new franchise, but I thought it was pretty good when I was there a few times. Red Bull Arena, I went there during the Thierry Henry era. It would obviously get a better attendance than they do these days. It's Yankee Stadium, Charlotte did a great job. I thought Charlotte did a great job. Dynamo, not so much. But overall, like yes, Orlando City to me has been fairly disappointing. There's a big Brazilian community here that they could tap into. We saw when Flamengo played here, man. They packed the stadium against Orlando City.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, there's several players. It doesn't just have to be Neymar, right? There are several players that they could go out and sign. They would probably bring some excitement, maybe bring some people in who don't follow the club,
Thiago
get
Silva,
them
maybe.
exercise. Who was it?
Thiago
Thiago
Silva
Silva.
right now.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, so I just feel like those clubs you talked about, Austin FC, Charlotte FC, they are clubs that are like brand new and shiny, so they kind of like have that fresh polish. People are still excited about them. Orlando's been in the league for 10 years. They seem like they don't care, even though they make signings. They've not been bad like the last 5 or 6 years since they fired Adrian Heath or whenever that was. But it just feels like they're not doing enough to keep the people's interest. Like MLS is just not big enough yet to where you're going to sign some random kid from South America and get all the fans, the casual fans, excited because they just don't have the history yet. I feel like you with a club like this, you got to have at least like one player that really brings people in, and maybe Thiago Silva or Neymar. Just signing someone like that, I couldn't even. I honestly think that if you guys signed a Neymar, it would be just like Messi. It might be a little less because Messi is the biggest brand there is, but I believe that that would like completely re-energize the whole entire city's like soccer landscape and get those fans excited to go to the game because they're going to see a superstar in their backyard and it just makes it feel like the club gives a damn.
Yeah, I mean that's one portion of it, but you could do a better community outreach. Like I'll give you
Yeah.
an example. I don't care. It's not like I'm not allowed to talk about this. When I worked for the soccer school, which was for I don't know the exact amount, but over a year probably, definitely over a year. Uh, they never sent like one player to maybe visit the soccer school. Why not have one player so the kids can see a professional player and like, oh, I want to go to the game with that guy. Never did anything event. I know nowadays they're apparently doing a better job in terms of getting the kids to maybe go on the field to play, but they didn't do any of that. Um, like for example, there was a moment in time, if you go 2 or 3 seasons ago, well, not during COVID, but like right after, where the attendance here was kind of low. Remember that? It was pretty low.
Mhm.
And even maybe games that are low, why not reach out to like middle schools, high schools, or colleges or something and just say, hey, here's 1,000 tickets. We're not going to have anyone there. These people will go. Maybe some will stay, will stick around like it. Maybe they'll buy a jersey, maybe they'll buy food, also improve the atmosphere, everything. There's ways to do it. It's just kind of like, do you want to do it or do you want to just kind of be there in the league? And also maybe a little bit more ambition. Wasn't Orlando City the lowest spending team last season or among it, like the
I
bottom
think they were
three,
bottom 5. I think they were bottom
bottom
5.
five? So a little bit more ambition, things like that. I don't know, man. If we're gonna talk about Orlando City, it'll be a long time.
Yeah. I discovered soccer at a later age. I mean, I didn't start watching it until I was like in high school. But I'm a huge NFL fan, and I know that my fandom and why I love my team so much is because of me watching them as a kid. That's like my fondest memories and my like connection to the team. So that kind of like what you just said, I feel like missing the opportunity to get these kids hooked on the club at a young age or just, familiar with them. It's just a huge opportunity missed because it's a lot harder to convince these kids to be a fan when they're like 19, 18 years old or 20. There's other teams that they've discovered, a lot more things going on. It's harder to pull them in. But like you said, trying to get the kids more involved and just like be more familiar and integrate into the club is huge. So hopefully more people or more teams are doing that. I know Orlando City was owned by, I think his name was Flavio. He was like
Yeah,
a
he's
Brazilian
Brazilian.
businessman. Yeah. And I know they sold to the Wilfs like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and they
No, no,
have.
no. It was after COVID, I believe,
Was it?
wasn't it?
Was it? Yeah, maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago. Then it
It
was.
was
It
after
was.
COVID. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
And he has spent more than Flavio did because honestly, I can't even remember any of the big signs he had made outside of Kaká. I mean, maybe Nani was during his tenure. I
I'm
think
pretty sure
maybe.
Nani was with Flavio, and I mean, there was like I believe Nocerino was there.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
not like that. Yeah, that's not like star.
But
Yeah.
they weren't spending like $10 million on Facundo Torres like they have now and stuff. Like they weren't spending as much money as what they are right now. Obviously, you want them to spend more, not just sign a kid, but like maybe sign a more established player to get the fans excited. Now, one of the other things I want to ask you though, and this is the big question, right? You said earlier in the episode, you were like, MLS, when you were talking the national team, I don't want a majority of our players being here because the level's not good enough. I want my players playing against the best so that the national team is at its best, right?
Mhm.
And you said it's debatable. I mean, it is debatable where MLS is in the like as far as other leagues in the world. It's hard to I don't know exactly how you calculate it, but I honestly wouldn't say it's top 10 right now. I would say that there's probably 10 leagues better in the world than MLS right now. How do we get there? Like what does MLS need to do in your eyes to take that next step? 2026 is coming up quick, and that's the biggest soccer year in the history of our country.
I mean, it's tricky, right? Because it's like, how do you even measure what league is better than what? It's better in like
Yeah.
youth development. It's better in this and that. But yeah, of course, there's when you get into a few leagues, like no one's gonna debate the Premier League is better than MLS and everything. Better roster, better players, better academies, better development, everything. And I would argue that, not argue, I would say right away the top 5 leagues in Europe are ahead of MLS
Mhm.
easily. The Brazilian league is ahead of MLS. No debate there. Liga MX is still ahead of MLS, whether they want to debate or not. That's that. So right there, that's already 7 teams. So MLS they'll put in eighth. I would argue the EFL Championship is better. The EFL Championship, that's already 8 teams now. And then you go Eredivisie. I would say that's when it starts to get closer because the bottom teams in the Eredivisie are probably worse than MLS, if we're being completely honest. But then the top 8 would probably be all like the best teams in MLS, all competing for the top 8. Um, and then you start to get into like these debates of leagues, which one's better, and all that. But what do we have to do to get there? Well, I think MLS has grown past the DP rule. That's one thing. I'm not opposed to still having it with since we have a salary cap. That way you can get a Neymar, like you said, Messi, the guys that will explode the salary cap. So you can get those guys. But I don't think we need to add a DP, for example, to get there. What MLS needs is a more balanced roster. That way you create more competition among players. You're going to see more intensity. You're going to see players competing for a spot, competing for money. Well, right now you have like MLS might be the most balanced league in the world in terms of like teams. It's like very close. The gap of the worst one to the first one, much different from other leagues, but it has the most unbalanced rosters with players making millions and millions of dollars and other ones making mediocre professional soccer player
50,
salaries for top.
60,000.
Exactly, which is I don't want to say that's mediocre because a lot of people live off of that, but I'm just saying it's mediocre for a top division soccer player.
Yeah,
And those are usually not great players for a
exactly.
Division One. And the overall point of that is like you want to have rosters that are more balanced, so the competitiveness for the positions in the team becomes much higher. Like in MLS nowadays, is a DP ever going to get benched?
No, they
Like
can't.
it's almost impossible. I think
Yeah.
Kara got benched in Orlando City at some point. That was a DP, but that's just such a bust. That's such a bad player. But again, it's like you want to have the team in a situation where no one's starting spot is safe. So what would I say? Like maybe reduce one or two DPs and put the salary cap to like 20 million. The rosters would become far more competitive, deeper, more depth to compete also in general. And you just see more intensity in the league in general, just improve more competition among the players. You want to create that. Like your position is not safe. There's you're unless you're Messi or something like that. If you're I'm trying to give an example. Like for example, I'm pretty sure if you raise the salary cap to that, a player like Miles Robinson would not have his position safe. You can have someone to compete with him, and it just keeps pushing the players to become better and always be at their best. Well, you do know how it is in MLS. There are moments of the season where the players that are a little bit above, they get comfortable. They get comfortable. It's natural. And then outside of that, which I said, reduce the DP since they don't. I mean, I'm okay with keeping the DPs and putting the salary cap at 20 million, but they won't do that. So what I'm saying is reduce the DPs and put the salary cap at 20 million, and also put a minimum that they have to spend.
Yeah.
Like,
A
or,
cap floor. Yeah.
yeah, where that
Well,
would be an issue.
well, and another thing too is you see a club like Miami, right? They're paying Messi 50 million a year. He's apparently getting some shares in Apple's stream, however many subs they sell. So they've proven to us they can spend. I think the average I want to say the average MLS team was spending around 12 to 13 million dollars a year on their salary cap or their salaries payroll. Or I think Toronto was at like 25 million, but it's not spread out. You know, they're paying Lorenzo Insigne like 15 million a year, which is a terrible signing when you look at it like that.
It's horrible.
And it's terrible. And you know this as well as I do. There is so much soccer talent out there in the world just because it's the most played sport there is. You can build a pretty good team with $20 million. Now,
Mhm.
you wouldn't be able to build a good team in the NFL or NBA for $20 million because it's a little different. There's not as many top leagues like that, but there are 5 great elite leagues in the world in soccer. And there's a lot of good players that just aren't good enough to play in those leagues, but they're still good, especially by MLS standards. And $20 million, I mean, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but how many Brazilian teams have payrolls that are $20 million a year?
I don't know, but it'll probably be just like Palmeiras and Flamengo, probably, and maybe Atletico Mineiro. Those three. Everyone else should be probably below that.
Yeah, so you could, I mean, look how good they are. I mean, I know it's a lot of youth development, so they're on cheaper wages, but
Yeah.
you can have competitive teams for 20 million a year. I don't even think Ajax is spending more than 35 or 40 million a year. They're not spending 200 like Man City or anything
No,
like
no,
that.
no.
So I don't think people realize how big of a jump the league would actually make just from going to 20 million. I honestly think, and you might disagree with this, but if they went to 20 million, I think we would surpass Liga MX instantly when they start get the signings rolling in because we're
Yeah,
talking about going from
maybe a
5 to
season or two.
20.
Yeah, give it a
Yeah,
season or two.
to really get all the signings in. But yeah, but if you do that, that's just a domino effect to really surpass Liga MX and never look back, which I don't know about you, but I'm tired of talking about Liga MX. I mean, it's an interesting league. I just want to have higher aspirations than just being better than Liga MX. Like that's not my goals, just to be better than them. I want to be a better league than just that. I want to, try to compete with the European clubs or the leagues and clubs. I'm not saying that's ever going to happen, but isn't that what we should be aiming for as a league, to try to counter those leagues and try to catch them even if we fall short?
I mean, if you look at the economy of this country, there's enough money for that. Two, you look at the MLS owners, they're super wealthy. So there is money to be invested in. And clearly, Europe and the world wants to invest into this US soccer market. But going back
Yeah.
to your question of what we have to do, it's not just increasing the salary cap and all of that. That will have an immediate impact. But the long term impact is once you do that, you need to have more, you have to demand more from these teams, and that has to come from MLS when they buy the franchises, demand more in youth development. Because then you have these young players coming up that will be pushing also the players, and they're cheaper. So, like San Diego has a residency academy. All MLS teams should have one. All of them should have it. It should be part of like the requirements. Like you're buying this
Mandatory.
franchise. Yeah, they
Yeah.
do the don't they do the mandatory like stadium, like I don't know how close to downtown or all that crap.
Yeah.
Mandatory. You need to have a residency academy, develop, have X amount of soccer schools in your city, just try to increase your outreach, all of that, because you do need to also bring these young players. You can't just be a league that just invests and pours money and signs people. You have to develop these players. Also, because that these young players that are developed within the community is usually how you get fans to identify more with that team because that kid grew up in the same neighborhood as me. And look at him, he's there. And that's how it goes over time. It's like these kids are they're later on turning 20 and they're seeing the forward for this team went to high school with me. Or this kid, we went to the same elementary school. So you do need that to increase your community outreach. And you want these young players that are cheaper to be pushing for those spots. And when we're saying 20 million as a salary cap, I would say still keep one or two DPs because then it allows you to get the Messi, Neymar. I'm okay with getting those superstars, but you make better rosters. I think those are the two things: youth development investment, which they're investing, but I think it could be done better, and then the salary cap, which I don't know, man. Keep saying it's going to be done. I'm not seeing it, and I don't think it will be.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So I think we both agree 26 is the biggest year in our history for soccer in this
Mhm.
country.
Yeah,
26 is by far.
yeah.
Do you honestly think MLS is going to capitalize on that, or do you think they're going to let us down again?
Do you think they're doing a good job capitalizing on the greatest player this generation's ever seen?
I honestly don't think they're doing it. I think that they are capitalizing on the money each team, but I don't think that they're doing all they can right now, honestly. Because if I was them, I would be loosening the purse string so people could spend more. So that way these people aren't leaving when he leaves. They're going to stay because they like the quality of what they see. It's not just one guy,
Hmm. Yeah,
you know?
but right now, well, they Inter Miami jacked up the prices of even like season ticket holders that were with them before Messi. How messed up is that? You don't want to
It is.
because again, the people that are buying those expensive season tickets are there because of Messi. They're gonna leave after Messi. They're paying more because of Messi. Now, the people that were there before Messi, you're getting rid of them or punishing them, charging them more, and they were loyal to you. So I don't think they're doing a good job capitalizing on Messi. And we talked about this on Twitter a few times how Pele in the 70s was filling up stadiums just like Messi, and they were charging, and it was a league far worse and far more underdeveloped than MLS. Not even comparable. But MLS, but sorry, not MLS, but Pele was big enough to do this, put 70,000 people in the stadium and charge good ticket prices, just what Messi's doing. So this audience in the US has already been there. The casuals are like, "Oh, superstars in town. Let's go watch the circus. They're here." We already had that before. It's what you do after that's the challenge. Or no, actually, sorry. It's what you do during it and what you get after is the challenge. And in that sense, I think they're milking Messi as much as they can.
Oh,
I'm not so sure that there will definitely be some benefit, right? There were benefits from Pele regardless. One can argue that we probably would not have gotten the 94 World Cup if it wasn't for Pele coming here in the 70s and all of this. And there will be benefits from Messi. Some people will stay. The question is what percentage of it? Are you maximizing that? I'm 100% sure like Beckham I thought the league did a better job with marketing that at the time for what it needed, and uh, but that's just me. We'll see. I guess that's one of those that I don't think they're doing a great job right now, but we'll find out. In like in I went to an Inter Miami game, by the way, in Miami against Nashville. And one thing that caught my attention was I even made a vlog about it, and I was showing it in the vlog. I was like, of course, most people here are Messi fans. But I was looking at the jerseys, like everyone has a freaking Messi jersey. It's insane. There's a like I even made a joke that I entered it wasn't the rabbit hole, it was like Messi's asshole or something. It was like weird.
Yeah.
Um, and my question is, how many of these people are gonna stay when Messi leaves Miami? Because that's the big challenge, right? Filling in the stadium with Messi playing is not a challenge.
No, no. I think Messi is honestly like just the way it's going. It's like a sugar rush for MLS. It's going to wear off, because they're not doing what they need to keep these people around, and it feels like they're just kind of winging it. They're like, 2026. It's such a slam dunk that there's no way we could mess it up. Like it's going to just fall into our lap. We don't even have to do that much. There's going to be all these people here who are going to be so excited about the World Cup, who are going to, maybe bring some new fans. I mean, my favorite World Cup was 2014 because I was like 18 or 19 years old. It was on the same time zone. We were actually in it. So, and you saw the madness in 2014, how crazy it was here during the 2014 World Cup. And I think it's going to be like that on steroids. It's going to be crazy over here. And there should be a lot of new fans organically come to MLS just because of that, because they're going to be like, okay, what's next? What are we doing now? Like, World Cup's over. What can I go watch now? And unlike other leagues that are going to start in August, MLS will still be going, which is another issue, right? Having the league play during the World Cup is insane.
No, they're not going to play during the World Cup. They're going to pause.
Are they?
Yes, they'll pause.
I think they played in 2014. I want to say
No,
that
no,
they
but there's
did.
no way. This one's in America. They'll pause.
Okay, well, good. But
I mean, look, I don't. I'm not saying I have information on that. I'm just saying. I'm just assuming they're not that crazy. It's in the U.S. I know they're gonna play through the Copa America. I know that. But the World Cup, come on, man. There's no way they'll do that.
you would hope, right? I mean, that would be stupid. That
Yeah,
would be
I'd hope they
stupid.
wouldn't play during it. I mean, I'm fine with them resuming like the week after. I'm fine with
Yeah,
that,
that's
but
fine.
but
Yeah.
not during the World Cup. No,
No, because no one's gonna care, right?
no,
Everybody's gonna be watching the World Cup. No one's gonna be
no.
watching that. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, man. We'll see what happens. I mean, I know what this country can be in soccer. I think you know what the potential is. A lot of people do. The question is it ever going to reach that potential? Who knows? But that's why I think you and I do what we do, because we're trying to elevate the expectations, what we want to see, and try to get people more excited and love the game that we both love.
Hmm. I agree.
So listen, I appreciate you coming on, Tack. Would love to have you again. Always like talking. Where can people follow you?
They can find me on Tactical Manager TV on YouTube. On Twitter, it's Manager Tactical, and Instagram is Tactical Manager TV. I would love to come back as long as people don't hate me too much here. Well, if they hate me and they still watch, I'll come back. It doesn't matter. But again, let them keep spreading the fake narrative that I'm a MLS hater. They can keep. I don't care. I'm gonna continue to cover it the way I do. Um, and I mean, if they want to, I can stop covering the league. I don't think that would help the league. I can stop it all at once.
I mean,
Um,
that's where I'm at now too. I just don't care. I'm just going to cover it the way I see it.
yeah,
If you like it, you do. If you don't, you don't. And that's just
yeah.
how
I
it
think
is.
it's kind of funny to me that they'll call themselves MLS fans. And again, it's a very small portion of the
Yeah,
fan base. I think for the most part, people do demand more. They do want better. It's just a small portion. If you're claiming yourself to be such a big MLS fan, you should want more people to cover it, whether it is hating, loving, demanding more, whatever it is. Even if it's someone that straight up just hates the league, it's better than not covering it.
100%, 100%. I mean, that's just perfect way to sum it up. So, well, I appreciate it. Comment down below and let me know if you think promotion and relegation should be adopted in America. Is that the way to reach our most potential in soccer in this country? Also, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. And until next time, I will see you all soon.